Great. So the reason I wanted to kind of have this conversation was to kind of brainstorm about different ideas about what we can do with pages, specifically for users that are getting started with pages. So I know that you're way deep in the weeds of everything that's going on with pages, but I would like you to extract yourself from that mode and think of a new user coming into the system. So I'm a new user. I want to set up pages. And the question is, how do I get started? So we have two different scenarios. One is that from the beginning, I know that I want to set up pages. And so I go into a new project and I choose the pages template. And then the workflow is pretty clear. But if I already have a repository, I'm not sure what I need to do. And so I want to share my screen and just do the walkthrough, even though I know that you know how to set up pages. But lately, especially since I'm trying to get up to speed with pages, I've been asking random people that I've had coffee chats with, if you needed to start with pages, where would you go? So we're going to do that activity together. I want to share my screen. Oh, I hope I share the right one. Today I got kicked out of my room, so I have only one monitor. Okay, so I have a project. Okay, this is my project. Now I want to set up settings. So I've asked random people, I want to start with settings. Where should I go? Maybe we'll do that with Itzik. Itzik, where would you go to get that started? You're on mute.
You're muted.
Okay, so if I would want to look for settings, I will look for the top right in the corner. I would start. But if you're asking if I'm for settings or for pages, what is the
pages? You want to get started with pages? I see that you have preliminary.
You're frozen, right? At least for me.
Yeah, also for me.
Sorry, I lost you. When did I lose you?
Yeah. Okay. So you ask if I want to get starting with pages, where would I go? So definitely not to the settings. I would say there are quick action buttons like README, changelog, Kubernetes, CI/CD configuration, add license. Maybe there I would want pages, great pages. I would. It would be nice to have that. There.
Okay. So similar to it's like most of the people who get started, they want to look for it under CI/CD or maybe under operations, or even under the repository.
We lost you again.
When in fact, the real place that you get started is under the settings, right?
Your internet rate is not stable.
Is it better now? Because I changed location.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, in fact, when people start, as I mentioned, they go to settings, into pages, and that's where you get started, right? So, I think this experience is really, really confusing, and you really have to read through the documentation to really know what you're doing. And when you do set the settings for pages, all you really do is a new domain, right? That's it. That's your entire setting. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking maybe we can make a better experience and kind of put a landing page for pages. So similar to what we have in feature flags, where we have something that we're showing, like the feature flags in the system, but when you first get started, and there are no feature flags, for example, in this project, then you get a getting started with feature flags page. So theoretically, if there are no pages set up, we can kind of show this. But once we do have pages set up, what would we display in this page? What can we display in this page?
I would just start with the link to the project templates. Because yeah, it's like project templates and the main documentation. And maybe the current docs is kind of very extensive and show you everything step by step. But I would love to have something like a few paragraphs just explaining that, yeah, in order to deploy, you just have to have a simple CI/CD configuration, and you can use these projects as examples. Yeah, just
Okay.
you don't need to know more.
So that's great. I was thinking something very similar, and I opened an issue for it. So today, when you before you have a YAML file in your project, you have some kind of guidance. Okay, so if you go to let's go to the repository for a minute. If we go to the web IDE, and we add a file, and we add a CI file, you can choose a template here. Now, again, you really have to know what you're doing if you're looking for pages. Pages has several templates. For example, HTML, right? And that'll give me the beginning of the YAML file. But I really need to know what I'm looking for in order to use that. So that's a little bit of a downside, and I've opened some issues regarding like the fact that I can just look for, instead of HTML, I can look for pages, and that'll give me like a list of the templates. And the pipeline authoring team is now working on an editor. So we thought about adding it to there.
But how do you know? How do you know that you need to look for pages when you look in? You need to know that pages. So it's also someone need to know to look for pages.
Yeah. So maybe we need to think
Research.
about several searches: the pages, website, things like that. Some keywords that can help users getting started.
Yeah. Also remember that only for HTML you can just create the YAML file and it will work. So if you take any other modern static site generator, you need to have much more. For example, if you need Jekyll, you will have like bundle file. You will have and basically you'll have like 20-30 files before you can actually start. So this creation of the one YAML file will not help you that much.
So if I go to, oh, there we had Jekyll.
Yeah, but this YAML file won't help you on its own.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I need to actually clone or fork all the different things from the example project.
Yeah, maybe it will be helpful if you have something like, for example, if you're moving from the GitHub to GitLab, and in the GitHub, when you just have a Jekyll project, it will almost work out of the box. So when you already have this project and you're just moving it to the GitLab, then you can use this Jekyll template. But I guess that's basically all only case when it will be really helpful.
So I actually have a really interesting question about that, even though it has nothing to do with getting started with pages. But if I have a GitHub pages, already set up, is there any way for us to do a clean migration, or do we have a procedure for that? I assume that's what we're going to need for the self-managed portion of what we're working on in the object storage.
You mean you want to have this like a bulk import from like thousands of projects? I'm not entirely sure. Like it depends on the static site generator. And yeah,
So
actually, the problem is
GitHub is Jekyll, right? I think it's only Jekyll.
I don't think so. I think they support other stuff, but maybe it is. I don't know. The problem is I didn't try it. I only read docs.
Okay.
I didn't actually try it.
So never mind. That's a conversation for another time, and I'll open up a research issue for that. But we'll put that on the back burner. But I want to go back to this situation. So let's say I do have a pages. I have pages set up. Is there any information that we can show the user? That was the wrong project. Is there any information that we can show the user on a landing page similar to the one that we had for feature flags? So obviously it would be different data. But what is interesting in terms of pages that we can display once they're set up?
One feature which was highly requested is some usage statistic, how many people visit.
Like Google Analytics, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But let's think small.
The pages themselves, but I think today we show them all of the pages, all of the folders. But I think we have it already.
What's the difference between that and the repo?
No,
Sorry?
actually, there is a difference, but I'm not sure if that's a valuable information for the users. Actually.
Would it make sense to display how they actually look in HTML? Like, you know, like an iframe in there, and then you click on the page and then you see how it looks like.
But we have a links to the, and there is a problem actually that like currently it's like what we show on Pages website and what is in the repo is a different things, right? So for example, in repo you might have some markdown files for Jekyll posts, and you will have actual HTML files for the actual web pages, right? In theory, we have this feature which allows you to link one to the other. I don't remember how it's done, but it's definitely possible. And then we can kind of do what Jaime suggests, just show the repo list, and from every file, show how it looks like in the actual website. But it sounds complex, doable, but complex, and I'm not sure if people really need this.
So maybe there is the public folder, and when I want to add or move files to it, I will need to go to the repository and do that. So maybe from the page, I have here a link for a page that I created. Maybe I want to have a button here near my page that will take me even to that folder, but it will be easy for me to do it from the page instead of that I will need to go to the repository and locate this directory. So it will be from the landing page next to each page. I will have a button for a folder that I will be able to manage the files or at least see what I am.
Lisa, can you share your screen and kind of walk us through that? Because I didn't
Yes.
exactly follow.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Like, if I understand you right, you're kind of assuming that there is a public folder in the repository, which isn't for the most of the static site generators. It's true only for HTML.
So this is actually, I'm a user, a production user of Pages, because all of my demos, I created a link here in the repository. And if I click here, it will open for me this, but I don't know where is the HTML. So if I add, for example, here a button that will take me to this folder that I can see where are the index HTML, that would be helpful for me. Instead of now, oh, where is it? Now I need to understand, oh, it's in the repository. I need to go here and I need to know it's here. And I needed to do a few clicks and to go here. So I think it's it would useful for me to have it. In addition to the link, to have this button, for example.
Maybe what do we think about the idea of showing the URL of your pages in this landing page and just giving you a status of is it returning a 404 or not? The index page.
Basic, we kind of already do that, right? We don't show the status, but we already show this.
Yeah, we show it under the settings. I'm trying to figure out. So first of all, the only people who can see settings are the maintainers. So anyone else in the project can't reach this page. So I think it would be helpful to also show it in another place in the project where you have view only permissions. Or not even view only. Maybe you can change the code, but you can't push it. I don't know. Different kinds of use cases. So, you know, just someone else in the project can see the URL and see this, just the high level status of, is it okay? Or is it like, you know, just returning a 404 and is unreachable, something like that.
But
what do we think about that?
I can just click and see if it's okay. What it will help me to see it here if I can just click and see that it works. If
so
I'm
I want to take something out of the settings. I think having something under the settings is hard to find. And as I mentioned, not everyone in the project has access to the settings. Only maintainers and up have access to settings. So if we have a bunch of members in the project, but only 2 are maintainers, no one else has access to this page.
Maybe displaying the URL next to the, has it been deployed and is it reachable or is it, you know, working or something like that. More like a small status page for your pages. Website.
Yeah, and then maybe one day we'll add Google Analytics to that. That could be a good like point to iterate from. I'm just kind of thinking what is really interesting that we can show on a landing page.
First of all, I definitely agree that we need to move it out of settings. I do remember that some people having trouble to find this URL. They need to guess it or whatever if they don't have enough permissions. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a great idea. Maybe we can just make this page work differently for people having different permissions. So if you don't have any permissions, you will not have these buttons. You can't remove pages, you can't add domains, but you can see domains and you also can see the URLs assigned to pages. Like the simplest iteration, just to disable everything if you don't have permissions.
So actually, they don't have permissions to any settings. It's not only pages, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, and then we can render the same page somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good first iteration. It will solve some problems. And you can't change anything. It's just view only. You view your page, you get a simple status. And maybe we can also link to the repo. What do we think about that?
Yeah, I wonder if showing information about the last deployment. So basically just, you know, the metadata about your website. It's been deployed. It was deployed 3 weeks ago from this branch or something like that.
Oh, interesting. I like that, Jaime. Yeah, we definitely have all this information. We can see who will in by
yeah,
who.
we also.
I would add another thing is what is the size of the files? Because I had a problem here that I put very large files and I got some complaints from some of the teams here in GitLab. I don't remember which one, but it would be interesting to know, okay, I uploaded, I want to see. what is the size of the files, because I believe there are limitations for pages. So maybe this information also can be useful.
Yeah, at least we can show the size of the archive and the number of files in it. So like,
Yeah,
you have 10,000 files and it takes only 1 gigabyte, and you have a limit of such size for your project.
so
you know,
what is the what is the limit of we know what is the limit of the folders. So if we know that the limit is, we can say, okay, this is the limit, and now you are 80% of your limit of what you can of your capacity, for example.
Yeah. Also, like, this is idea for the future, but at some point we wanted to introduce some rate limits for projects. Like, there are people who hosts, for example, source for very popular browser extensions, and we have millions of requests on pages, and sometimes it creates a lot of load. So we want to introduce some limits. GitHub, by the way, already has them. Like, you have 100,000 requests free, and everything above that is paid or something. So maybe this is also may go to that page. About the 404 or not 404 status you mentioned before, I'm not sure. As Itzik said, you can always click and see if it works, but on the back end, it's kind of, I mean, we can implement it, but not exactly easily. It's like, we can do it synchronously because pages may time out, so we need to do that async, and it creates kind of not an easy front end and back end combination. So I'm not sure if it works.
So I guess we can start with, if you don't have pages, we put a landing page to get started with the link to the example projects and the templates. If you do have pages set up, we show you the URL and the last time it was deployed.
And we can also already show size and number of files.
Size and number of files. Yeah.
So I have another idea. Maybe it can be crazy, but I will say it anyway. What about always you have pages? Always we have a default one page, very simple. Hello, this is pages. So always people will have, you have a project, you have a pages. Very, very small, but just, you know, one file. So people will notice it. People will notice, oh, there is this feature. This is interesting. Okay. And in that file, you can say, oh, you can increase this and enhance this actually with more with your website.
Well, I think adding files to someone's repo is not a good idea, but we can do it very similar to what we do today when you create a new project and it asks you, should we create a README file? We could do,
right.
you want to add a pages, you want to add pages, or what would be a default pages?
There is a problem with that. People use different static site generators, right? And they are all not simple. Like, when you add a README file, you add a single file. You don't add 30 files to that repository, and they do not conflict with any other stuff you want to add, right? So I'm not sure that's such a great idea. Also, these templates need to be maintained actively, and we will change them. So like, today you have one version of Jekyll, tomorrow you have another. So it will be updated. Like, every time you click this button, it will do something a little bit different because some dependencies updated.
I did have another bit of a crazy idea. If we ever support like multi versions of pages, the dashboard, that status dashboard can show you like the different URLs for the different versions, and you know when was it deployed. The same thing, but just multiple rows with the different versions that you may have deployed.
That's awesome, Jaime.
And you know, that supporting multi-version could potentially be a paid feature. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And we could also connect that to releases, release notes for each of these different pages. I like it. And I like the fact that it would be paid.
Yeah, that's actually a great thing. I finally want to have something paid in pages. We only have one feature so far, and it's very small.
Which feature?
You can have limits per project for
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know.
pages set. Yeah. But I don't think anybody will ever pay for such a small thing.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Okay. So some other ideas that, again, I mentioned that we're working with the pipeline authoring team is to kind of help users out when they're getting started. So let me open a project that I do have a YAML file. One second. So many open tabs. Where did my tab go? Okay, I think it's this one. Okay, so if I go to the editor on a file that I already have, a GitLab CI/YAML file, under, this is pretty new. So under CI/CD, you see there's an editor, and it visualizes your pipeline, tells me it's invalid. That's very sad. Includes, I don't want to solve my syntax problems right now. Let's choose a different project. What has a YAML file?
GitLab itself has
Okay.
this massive YAML file.
So GitLab org.
GitLab or GitLab, yeah.
Okay, let's see.
I
Okay,
want to see how this is visualized.
crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. Not the simplest YAML file you can find.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I've been, oh, where did I go? I don't know what I clicked, but going back, what we said we will work on is that we're going to have like some kind of way to help people out with jobs. So I'm not going to commit this, don't worry. So if someone writes pages, it'll give you some kind of snippet to help you get started, things like that. I don't want to ruin GitLab, so I'm going to cancel.
Yeah, you don't have permissions probably, right? Or oh, you do. You do.
Do I?
I mean, you might have it as a manager, but I wouldn't try. Again, I'm not sure how helpful it will be, since for most of the templates you need more than the YAML file.
Yeah.
And the simplest configuration, right, is it's a simple job which copies something to public and exports it as an artifact. That's all it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We can create some stuff like Jekyll pages or some other static site generator in pages and autocomplete this, but the use of this will be limited, especially if people have some kind of tweaks to their projects if they store pages not in the main directory or whatever. So.
Okay, something else that's really cool that I showed Jaime in our conversation was, let me open this page. In GitHub Pages, what I really liked about their pages was that you can choose a theme. I don't know if you've seen this.
You can.
But they let you like just set your website with different themes that they give available. So that's pretty neat. I don't know how many people actually use this, but it's a nice feature.
I mean, if you use Jekyll, you use this definitely because default theme is awful.
So do we have, because we support Jekyll, so do we have something similar, like in terms of themes?
There is a public website. If you Google Jekyll themes, I guess it's even called this Jekyll themes. You'll find how them. Basically, all you need to do is to add some kind of gem and one line into the Jekyll config, I guess, and it will be used unless you use the GitLab template. Because current GitLab template for the Jekyll hard codes theme, and you actually need to remove like 20 files before you can use this.
Oh, wow.
Which is super annoying. Yeah. There is a way to fix that. I even wanted to do that, but I never get around to it.
Interesting. Maybe we can get a community contribution around that.
I'm not sure. It's kind of a marketing stuff, right? But what it's done, basically, in the we use a special GitLab theme in this Jekyll template, and instead of exporting it as an external repository and linking it as a gem, as everyone else does, we just hard-coded it into the repository. And now you need to remove all these files before you can use another theme. Yeah.
Awesome. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm going to kind of summarize what we discussed. So step one, we said create a landing page for pages, empty state, links, the templates, and example projects. Number two is if you do have pages set up, we're going to show the URL there, when it was deployed, number of files, and the size of the project, right? And that's it for MVC of this. For future iterations and improvements, adding Google Analytics to that page, adding, once we support multiple versions, having a paid feature for multiple versions, showing that on the page, including the information of when that was deployed, and maybe even linking it to the release page and release notes. And then maybe unrelated, add some templates from Jekyll. But did I get everything?
Yeah, sounds right. Can one last comment? What you just shown, this kind of gallery, we can do it for the current projects. For example, maybe in docs, we can just have links for what projects we already have. And then we can do the same for Jekyll. And for example, if we fix the default Jekyll template, we can then create a bunch of repositories with different themes and use some kind of, use them in the gallery, maybe in tree view when you click on Jekyll and you see every theme for the Jekyll inside of it. And the same for any other static site generator.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Maybe I would take that as a personal project. Well, we can extend them slowly. That's awesome. We don't have to do everything in one day. We can just add another theme and then add another theme. Awesome. Thank you. This was great. I'm going to post it to Unfiltered and to our channel. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day and evening, Jaime.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Bye.